Let's bring in Stephen Flanagan, a 43-year vet in the game.
What's up, Burke? How you doing?
How are you, man? I miss you, man.
Good.
That's the first thing I'm going to say. How are you? How's everything?
Everything is great. Retirement life is awesome, and I actually have time now to sit back and watch like a day like today play out.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, you know, as of all days, today's the day that we actually have you as the guest. And, you know, I'm sure you've seen the implosion in the crypto market. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, man. But, you know, first of all, you know, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We truly appreciate it.
Sure.
I set a high expectation for our audience, and I know that you're not going to disappoint. So, like, there's only so many chances we get to do that. So,
well, let me just say one thing, Burke. You know, I had a cup of coffee this morning. I guess it was getting around 11-ish midday, and I saw what was going on in the crypto space, and I went, "Damn, there it is again. My luck. I'm on your show, and probably one of the more explosive days in the crypto space."
Yes, sir. And you know, I guess actually, you know what? Like, the one thing that we do, and Jimmy's looking at me. I think he was gonna do that.
No, man, this is all you guys. This is all you guys. You guys are old friends.
We usually start the show. Obviously, you know, I know you a little bit, but we usually start the show with, you know, how did you get to where you are? Most of the time, the context is crypto, because we only have, so far, you're the first person who has experience outside of crypto coming to our show. And we typically ask people, how did you get into crypto? But I'd rather say, you know, how did you get into TradFi and eventually ended up where you ended up before you retired, right? And just so everybody knows, Steve ran global electronic risk on the FX side for JP Morgan. We basically had a big electronic risk book, and Steve was the global risk manager for the entire thing. So it would be awesome if you can just share a little bit about how you started, what it was like when you started, and what it was like when you ended, or rather, I should say, when you decided to retire. Then I'm going to ask you why you retired, but hey.
Okay. Well, you know, let me start right at the beginning. 1979, when I got into the foreign exchange markets, computers have been a theme throughout my entire run. And I'll explain this if you could picture this. Here I am in a three-piece suit right out of college, and I'm walking across an operations floor. I sent out 500 resumes to the Fortune 500. That's what we did back in those days, by mail.
Right.
And I had 380. Hey, it was nice getting your resume. We put it on file. So I had no interviews. Anyway, I took this job in operations at Manufacturers Hanover, and I'm walking across a city block, row after row after row of document checkers, baskets on their desk filled with, you know, a foot or more of paper. And I was like, oh no, this is not going to work out well. Anyway, all the way at the end of the floor, there's a room in glass case on a higher floor. It's air conditioned, and it's the first operation department that they're automating with computers. When I talk about computers in 1979, the IBM 3400 was about the size of a kitchen table. So that's how it started. Operations, I got into currency trading in 82. And how I got into that, just a brief, I played soccer for the bank, and the bank used to send me overseas to play against other branches back in the days where companies, you know, spent some money on everybody. And I got familiar with a lot of the foreign exchange teams throughout the globe. And I found the opening in that and applied and got it. And currency trading was fantastic. It was all manual. You had to write up tickets. And lo and behold, what comes in? Suddenly they bring in this little computer system, and you had a little bombs-eye as your mouse, and you placed it over these little plastic tabs. And that's how you entered in trades, because you had to write up trades. So clearly, you didn't do a lot of volume because you didn't want to have to write a lot of tickets. And as we all know from our school days, the more you write, the more mistakes you make. Even if you do 1,000 tickets, there's bound to be 10 that are wrong. So computers was a great area to cut down mistakes. I was very at the forefront of that in foreign exchange trading. And along comes 2003, and everything is beginning to move. We were latecomers to the automated computer trading. And my boss said, you're starting to lose a little bit of that speed in trading. By that time, it's a young man's game, no question about it. It's a lot of intensity, a lot of emotions in manual trading. So I took a leap of faith and jumped into the electronic space. And, back in those days, you did a few trades, and there was a lot of mistakes. And like anything, and I can relate this right to today and what's just gone on in your market, Burke. Like everything, you learn as you go. There are mistakes that you will see, there are inefficiencies that you will see, and each and every time, the name of the game is to look to improve. So that's a real snapshot of 43 years. But I've traveled around to the financial centers around the globe. I've made a lot of friends. And truly, Burke, my working with you was one of the highlights.
I truly appreciate that, man. First of all, I did not know that you played soccer, and that's sort of how you ended up making the connection to, like part of your journey. It's funny because, I come from a soccer sort of background as well. I still learn new things about you. But, fantastic story, right? I guess if you think about the crypto market nowadays, actually, the way I kind of contextualize it for myself is that, it's sort of one of the newer steps in the evolution of electronification of assets. Yes, today we have a new asset class we call cryptocurrencies. We don't know if it's a commodity or currency or what. But really, looking at it from a technology perspective, it's just another step in electronifying information in a more efficient, in a more sort of streamlined way, right? And here we are today. I guess bringing it back to the markets that you've seen. This wasn't actually intending. I wasn't intending to ask you this question, but you've seen all kinds of markets, right?
Yes.
People around here call TradFi, as we said, FX or rates or whatever. And have you seen any market conditions similar to what we're seeing in crypto today in any TradFi asset in the past? I think it's important for people to know because people think crypto is going to die every other day. And I'm wondering if you've seen anything like this in TradFi where things were crazy and then it went back to normal and it improved, like you said.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, you could look at several in 1984. The dollar was on a runaway move up. Speculators coming out of the commodity markets, many of these big hedge fund managers were trading commodities back in the 70s and then all moved into currencies in the 80s. And the dollar was on a one-way move, which was beginning to create a lot of stress around the world as people could say that had a similar effect recently. And the central banks came in to intervene. Everybody said, that's it. Trading in FX is done, finished. They were going to take all the volatility out of the market. Well, 40 something years later, they did not do that. They did create a better system, a system that trades, a system where a bid and an offer and the liquidity in the marketplace became more of a certainty. And I don't mean 100%, but let's just say it moved up to 85%. So that once that begins to happen, people begin to have a better understanding of how to manage their risk, and that creates more and more market participants. So today in the crypto space, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be learned. I know one topic that's probably very hot in your space would be, a segregation of responsibilities. That's going to be something people are going to analyze in a post-trade basis. I've always talked to you about that. You do a trade, whether it works or not, it's critical that you have a look back and you say, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And you look for things that work, and you begin to sense over a period of time the correct pattern that you need to follow. So, yeah, there are similarities. You could probably go to 2008, which was a much larger one on a global scale, but you had the Lehman and the Bear Stearns and several other type of examples.
It does feel like studying under a master talking to Stephen today, guys. Chad, if you guys have any questions, I would say definitely take advantage.
Absolutely.
An OG and vet in the game, and someone who's going to give you the straight dope, as they say. You know what I mean? This guy's retired. Just ask. You know what I mean? So
yeah, he doesn't need to hold back. But I mean, like I said, I worked with Steve for a few years. He was one of the few people that I could just go to and be like, man, tell me like it is, right? What is wrong? What can I do? What can we change, etc. And I always got straight answers, which I always appreciated. Bringing it back to risk management, right? That was your main, mandate, right? You manage risk on a very, very large book. I'm obviously not going to quote any numbers, but just believe me when I say, guys, it was big. What would be your approach to a day like this? Obviously, the big banks aren't there to provide markets, and I can tell you guys, if big banks were there, we wouldn't be seeing this level of volatility, right? There are good track records for big banks providing very good dampened liquidity during events like Brexit, for example, right? Like one of the reasons why we have this level of volatility is because big, properly, backed, high degree of credit and sustainable market makers aren't there. And Steve, like on a day like this, what would be your take in terms of risk management if you were a market maker?
Well, this is the type of day where what your end goal. So you start early in the morning, and you're saying, what happens by 5 o'clock? Well, by 5 o'clock, I want to be able to trade again tomorrow. So if you're going into today with the idea that, hey, this is a day I'm going to make a ton of money, you know what? That's not necessarily the correct approach, because it's only going to take one trade to get caught on the wrong side in a liquidity gap, and it's going to wipe out an entire day, if not more. So risk management in a day like today is a series of trades and decision. When you make a decision, if you do not get a risk reward in a very short period of time, you must exit the trade. And so what I'm saying is, when you trade, if it goes against you, it's going to more apt, because markets will always find your breaking point. And if that trade is not going your way, you've got to be able to say, I prefer to lose 1 point as opposed to suddenly 10. And now I'm sitting there going, now I got to make back 10 just to get even.
And one thing I'll just add, guys, like, we say stuff like this sometimes, but take it from Steve. One interesting thing that happens, Steve, in crypto world is there is mathematical and algorithmic leverage, right? A lot of the crypto activity went towards this type of leverage, mainly because the credit facilities that traditional investors or institutions normally enjoy from the banks and credit sort of entities don't exist. So people have gone the way of getting mathematical leverage, where if they don't manage their positions on a day like this today in the way you mentioned, they get wiped out. I'm concerned that one of the big firms is actually wiped out at the moment, and we're going to find out in the next few hours. And that's what's wreaking this level of havoc today. But great advice. I just wanted to sort of highlight that. And roll back the video and watch it again. That's what
Burke. One thing that's interesting that I've been watching from I have my grandson most of the days helping out in the family here, and which I enjoy thoroughly. But once in a while, I am watching, and I wonder, with the recent sudden increase in interest rates, which now affects the, let's call it a conventional financial market, that's many of them, versus the crypto space. Crypto, when you refer to liquidity and not having the price making, so much of price making today is electronic. But electronic price making has an incredible amount of algorithms built around it. And when the market gets volatile, especially when the cost of capital is much more money, the liquidity is going to be very quick to disappear. So
Absolutely.
it might be that the crypto space is merely the tip of the iceberg to what potentially could be out there in the marketplace.
Small technical problem. I lost my mouse, but the funny thing about cryptos is exactly as you said. Cryptos are born into algos, right? The journey that you described, where you were in the beginning of the journey, you were driving it, then eventually computers came to assist, and nowadays it's more computer driven with still humans monitoring stuff. I think crypto actually started out with algos, right? The actual exchanges, such as Dexalot, are kind of algos living in the blockchain, matching algos, but they're still in the blockchain, they're still algos. The exploits that you're seeing in crypto world are actual algorithms finding bugs in other algorithms, i.e. the smart contracts, and pulling out stuff from their weaknesses and whatnot. And crypto is very unique in the sense that as you said, I think we haven't matured to the point where these things are built and implemented in a way they are well controlled, versus what we have operated in the past, where things were very well controlled and they were maintained by independent applications that would protect our trading and our positions and our risk. So anyways, I'm going to get carried away.
That's a great point you just made there, because in the world that I've come out of and now retired from, we always had the reins around the unlimited horsepower that an algorithmic trade execution can bring to the marketplace. But we always could pull back on the reins at any point in time, versus the market you've just described. Those horses with incredible horsepower are running free, and it's up to the humans now in that space, the developers, the risk managers, to begin to rein in and make sure that they operate within a more defined space, which I believe is one of the things that has been happening in that space. If we look at the volatility in crypto 3-4 years ago versus today, it has come in considerably. So
absolutely. I mean, I remember pre-2018, I was obviously on the sidelines just looking at the data and looking at the moves. 50-60% moves for maybe not the majors, but the secondaries, I'm going to call them, rather than alts, was very common. It was very it was very possible. Nowadays people freak out over like a 10%, 20% move. And the way I kind of look at it is things start like this and eventually it shrinks, and eventually over time, with regulation, with credit coming in, with institutions jumping into the space, it's going to become more it's going to look more like a TradFi sort of market. And I'm looking forward to
that's
it.
right. Yeah, that's right. And I wore my shirt specially for today. If you could see it, it's all about speed.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you this. What are we driving these days, man? I know you're a very big enthusiast.
Well, anything with a lot of horsepower.
Yeah,
let's go.
There's a lot of different ways to experience driving. I prefer the off the line straight horsepower.
Yeah. Do you get to do that more nowadays, given that you're no longer watching a big risk book? Is that more or less? I obviously understood the grandchildren part, but how's the driving?
Yes, I definitely get to do it much more often.
do you race? Do you do any races?
No, just I stay legal within the realms of what you're allowed to do.
Got it.
But
You can tell. We only have 21
No,
viewers right now. You
I
can
mean,
tell us. If you-
I mean, I meant like drag races because there were a few people that I worked along, throughout my career where they were racers. They would every weekend they would go out to the strips and they would do drag races. That's what I
right,
remember.
right. There are some places out here on Long Island. There is one in particular where you can go, but no, I have not gone there. So I just have fun, red light to red light.
That's how I do it as well. I have child seats at the back in the end.
we did get a request in the chat. Firestorm and Steve, Mithril Angel is asking, can we reintroduce the Wise OG for new joiners who missed the beginning? And yes, of course we can. We have a foreign exchange legend in the house. We got Steve Flanagan with us today on In the CLOB. Again, Steve, thanks for being. I wanted to interject and ask really quick, as a 43-year vet, finance vet, like what I mean, in the crypto space, what are you excited about? What do you see that excites you when you look at crypto?
Well, Burke was just alluding to that point. Let's go back to 2017, 18, when crypto was moving, 10%. And, you're sitting at your desk watching the euro dollar move 15 pips. And you're going, oh my goodness, look at the volatility there. Things are all equaling themselves out. And anything that starts out, if I take currencies and go back into the early 80s, even the mid 80s, we had days where we moved 10 big figures, which is, a tremendous move in currencies. So very much like the infancy with crypto, there's a lot of similarities between them. But what would I look at today? I definitely look at the volatility.
Sure.
And if there is an instant where one can measure a good risk taking position and with a relative high confidence, you enter in. On a day like today, it's great to have a spectator seat.
Yeah, for sure. No question.
Absolutely,
No question.
absolutely. Steve, I know we have limited time, so I kind of want to stop asking questions. I'm wondering, is there anything that you would like to talk about, or should we ask you more questions? Again, I kind of want to give you the opportunity to, if you have opinions or questions, we'd love to sort of answer them as well, or talk about the stuff you want to talk about rather than what we want to talk about.
Sure. Well, just in case that your question that was just asked didn't pick up, I think that today's, specifically today's move in the crypto markets and the events that have happened, should not be looked at as, cataclysmic. This is the end. No, not at all. This is, just another in a series of learning what happened, what went wrong. Is there a topic like segregation of responsibility that can arise as a result of this? And these are always things that a good trader will always have hindsight on. In currencies, Burke, you and I used to talk about, looking back at every execution and seeing, the data as to what went right, what went wrong, and making corrective actions accordingly. So that would be the only thing I would look at for your audience. But I would encourage whatever questions you have, I'd be happy to answer.
I have 10 more.
Go ahead.
Again, I'm sort of getting too excited. I kind of want to give you the chance as well. Okay, so the very, very interesting thing about crypto, which sort of when I first thought about it blew my mind, is that particularly in DeFi, meaning on decentralized finance, on platforms such as Dexalot or on platforms such as Uniswap, all the trades and the people doing the trades are visible publicly. Right. It's not data that you have to go out to a EBS and purchase, right? These are this actual public data, and you can see their entire balances. Like you can see what their positions are. You can see all of their activity. So what would be your view on trying to trade in an environment where all of the information is out there? It's not like there isn't that much internalization. There isn't much like a dark pool today. There are dark pools being built, but everything is out in the open when it comes to DeFi. Like, how would you approach operating in that space, basically?
Well, first question is, do I have the ability to see the depth of market?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
You have the ability to see the order books, the actual orders being placed and where they're being placed, and the wallets that are making PNL and not making PNL. Let me put it that way.
Okay. So it's an unregulated market. So, not that the depth of book is an important determinant, because obviously that can have misleading information potentially. But depth of book, last paid, last given. I would look for that. I would look to perhaps have a technical analysis so that I could monitor. I'd be looking to use some simplistic sorts of technical analysis, trend line support, moving averages, RSIs, and things like that, which would be supplemental to perhaps my overall decision making. But first and foremost, I have to have a view. If I do not
Absolutely.
have a room with a view, then I'm not trading. Then I'm a spectator. But when I do get a room and I have a good view on where I think the markets are going, I then utilize the last paid, last given, depth of market, and a technical analysis to kind of give me that little extra. The hardest part about that, though, is the first trade. You got to dip your toe in the water and say, is it warm? Is it cold? Well, the best way is just push me in and I'll tell you what the water temperature is very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple of things I want to sort of ask at the back of that. Number one, the very interesting approach that crypto exchanges, either in DeFi, obviously they don't have this option. DeFi exchanges have all of their activity shown. Centralized, so TradFi like looking exchanges, which have servers behind closed doors, even they are completely opening up the trading and market data and letting people go crazy with it. Obviously, in TradFi markets, you have exchanges that would give different kind of data to institutions that pay for it. There is a sort of monetization model around it. Crypto exchanges and crypto entities approached it in a different way, where they said, guys, go have it. Here's the data. Institutions or retail, whoever wants to play can come play. What do you think about that? I think this helps regulation. And the second part of the question is, there is no regulation. You just said that. What would be your view on the impact of regulation on a market like this? Is that a good thing, you think, or is that a bad thing? Our audience asks us this all the time.
Okay, well, coming from a long time view of where central bank control began to move in. Back in those days, currency markets traded maybe several $100 million in the early 80s a day globally. I think the BIS report that came out a couple of weeks ago is showing that the daily turnover is now over $8 trillion. So, what does regulation bring? What does data transparency bring? What do rules of trading bring? It brings more participants to the marketplace.
Sure.
It gives us all the ability to say, hey, I have a pretty good idea that I want to bring to market, and I can backtest my idea with the data. And I'm now encouraged to go into the market because I have some certainty of where this trade may go. So, in a bigger picture, it expands the market. It brings in more participants, more liquidity, and that all, well, yeah, it may reduce some of the tails of volatility, but it creates a better marketplace for everybody to trade in.
Sure.
Absolutely. Literally, the answer I was like praying for, and you said it word for word. The very interesting thing is today, you could move the Bitcoin or Ethereum price with a few $1 million, right?
Yeah.
In the FX markets, especially actually, in a specific exchange, you need a lot less than that to move the price, right? In the FX markets, $1 million or $2 million, I don't think we even worried about that size of a trade, right? If there's an issue, sometimes we had issues with clients. Sales would come up to Steve, and Steve would be like, "How big is the trade? Couple $1 million, guys. Let's make the client whole. Let's do the right thing. If it's our issue, it's our issue. Take care of it." Like, you didn't even ask the numbers. I remember that very vividly.
Mm-hmm.
In crypto, things move and operate very differently. So the depth is very little. And guys, regulation coming in, it may give you a short 10% dip, 20% dip, because people are going to create a lot of concern, FUD, lots of tweets will be sent. But in the long term, if the market expands to the point where volumes are, what was the numbers? 100 million a day to 8 trillion. Just think about the multiple there. If the market volumes are that large, now the theory that this is becoming a corporate treasury asset is viable because it's liquid, right? You can get into it, you can get out of it, you can treat it like a more close to a cash type asset. So we appreciate your take on that. It's really important. And a lot of people don't view it this way. A lot of people today say, oh, regulation is a bad thing. Let's keep it wild, wild west. And people don't realize, what they're missing out on with respect to liquidity or lessened volatility, real investment opportunities and whatnot.
It depends on what side of the wild, wild west show that you're on, which will dictate your opinion. If you happen to be the person that says, I want to buy, and you go ahead and execute, and you're a small guy, and you executed, what you had was a pretty good amount of capital that you put into the marketplace, and some large shark is out there that's unloading and driving the price 5% lower in a heartbeat, you're going to have a little bit different opinion.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's true. But like one of the big issues right now in crypto is, you remember the days of the Flash Boys, right? Michael Lewis' book came out. Oh, HFTs are really bad. They're like, destroying the market. My view, again, I don't want to get slaughtered, but my view was a little bit different. Yes, HFTs have a very specific business model of making sure prices were the same across exchanges. But what that allowed people to observe is, originally you would pay this much spread. Once the HFTs came in, for a little guy to trade, it became this much spread, right? I think right now there is different kinds of front running happening in crypto, where people know that you want to do a trade in size because they could see all of this information publicly, and they could squeeze their transaction ahead. And it's not about making the prices the same anymore. It's actually about potentially front running another participant. And I think
that's but that's nothing unusual in trading, right? I mean, I have worked with many of those people in that book.
Yep.
And I have a good understanding of the concept. But if we want to roll the tape back a little bit, and if you think about the open outcry pits in Chicago, where a trade would come in on a phone, and one of the big dealers would then use the hand signal out to the pit to the execution, and all the locals would see the order coming in and would quickly jump in front and execute 1 or 2 contracts versus 500 contracts. So the idea of being able to access the liquidity in a, to get that idea and market to order to the marketplace is not uncommon today as it was back in the early days of trading. So what we do is we need to live and learn, and we need to learn from people's ability to get out there very fast. And that's that space that you've said. Crypto is born in an algorithmic space.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and everybody, the fastest guy gets to the market. So if you want to be that
best
good,
tech and fastest guy, both of them,
then you've got to develop a similar system.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are quite a lot of big firms, and we all know this. Like, big banks are not so far behind, right? Most of the, there was actually a recent announcement by JP Morgan. I don't know if you saw that, they did the first official corporate asset transaction on a public blockchain. Obviously, JP Morgan had a private permission blockchain for a long time. They've done a lot of things, but this was the first time they've done a transaction on a platform called Aave and on the Polygon network. So everybody knows. Yeah,
out in Singapore, right?
This, I think, yes, it was a Singaporean bank, and I think the vision there is quite interesting. And banks are coming. I think people need to realize that. And yes, days like this will happen, and they will happen many more times from this point onwards as well. But the sector is growing, and we have a lot of people coming into the market. And all the issues that we're seeing today we're going to get different issues, but these issues today will probably disappear soon.
The numbers go back up, guys.
Numbers eventually go back up. Maybe not for all of them, but for some of them at least. Right. The market as a whole will continue growing, is what I claim.
The technology is very valuable, and in some form or fashion, it will find its way into mainstream. And as you say, it's just waiting for the pieces of the puzzle to be sorted out. That would probably be a more regulatory type environment.
Sure.
And experiences like today are only going to give more and more people a view in which to proceed forward on.
Absolutely. Steve, last question before I sort of let Jimmy ask you other stuff. What do you think of NFTs, man? You got any NFTs, anything like that?
In what sense?
NFTs, as in, there is a separate sector of Web3, I would call it. It's not cryptocurrencies. Right. These are digital, originally digital art. Now people are looking for other ways to utilize these digital creations.
So you want to know what do I think if it's going to, grow
no, I mean,
into...
Do you have any NFTs is what I was trying to, ask, basically. You don't have to say yes or no. It's okay.
I do not. I can say I do not. However, I do have I do have some people that have talked to me about it and tell me about it. Yeah. And I just kind of shake my head going, oh boy, you know what? You have to stay in your lane. I know what goes on. I have a pretty good idea of doing the type of things that I like to do. And I have learned over my experience, the moment I go over the fence to try to cross into another lane and think that I know what's going on is the day where, the bug hits the windshield.
Yeah, I have the exact same problem, with NFTs. Those are the two things, like cryptos and NFTs are the two things.
Yeah.
I still haven't been able to wrap my head around them quite well. But, the reason why I asked is we actually give away an NFT art piece, basically, that we produced, Dexalot produced, to our audience for tuning into our show. That's why I was wondering, I know we'll eventually stop talking, but we'll do that giveaway. I would love to get your opinion later about what you think of our art. We have a really nice artist who produced them.
So somebody asked me about this not that long ago, and I said, didn't Bruce Willis have a movie where, he used to put on the goggles and lived in a virtual world and had all that? Yes. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm not going to say it's not coming, but I think I might be gone by that time.
Hopefully not, and I think it's going to happen much sooner than you think, man. I think it's just a few years away. I think we'll see.
Well, that'll be cool.
That movie was pretty grim, though, so hopefully it's not like that.
Yeah, I know.
He was a police officer, right? He was a police officer. He would get into I remember.
Yeah. And everybody was all sick and old.
Yeah.
Their virtual bodies were very young and hot.
The virtual bodies,
just like now. I feel like, guys, I don't know, Chad, I don't know if you guys feel this way. I feel like we're talking to the Jedi Master right now. Jedi Master Stephen Flanagan over here. Steve, I just got two questions for you, man, before we let you go. Would you please come back and teach us more Jedi Master lessons on the show?
I'd love to. That would be great.
That would be so great, because I know, I don't want to take any time away from your.
However, if I do come back, I want to get on earlier so I could listen to that DJ stuff you're doing, because that was really good music.
My man, I really appreciate that. Yeah, we do a little, guys, just so you know, we do a little warm up 15 minutes before instead of doing an extended music section at the front of the show. Since we have so much stuff we do now, we DJ a little bit before, but we're going to DJ a little bit at the end too, because we got a couple more things to do before the show ends. But Steve, is there a song? We were talking about this in Soundcheck. Is there something you'd like to hear me throw in the mix? Is there a song you're feeling today? Something I can play for you to match your mood.
Don't worry about throwing a wrench in this. This guy is so good. He can mix in anything. I've tested him on this 10 times. I've failed every time. He won every time. So pick anything you like, man. He'll make it work.
I think I'll stump him right here. But
he said he was going to stump me. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's go.
This might be a good type of song on a day like today. The name of the song. What should I do? Give you the band or the name of the song?
Yeah, just the both, if you don't mind.
Okay. The name of the song is Amnesia.
Yeah.
And the name of the band is Poussette Dot.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know it.
Yes.
But here's the thing. I'm still going to throw it in I'm going to be able to mix it in because we got this World Wide Web.
Really?
We're gonna get it. Yes, we're gonna get it.
I messaged our producer with the name, exactly what Steve said. He'll probably pull it, just so you know, Jimmy.
So this is Steve. To give you a little background, this is also a decentralized Twitch stream. We have Firestorm over there. He used to broadcast from Jupiter. That's what we used to say. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm from New York originally. I know you said you were in Long Island. Our producer is in Turkey, in Istanbul. So we have a lot of moving parts, and so
that's great.
We just make it happen. But I will get that in the mix for you. We'll make it happen. I don't know the song off the top of my head, but I'm very curious now.
Yeah.
To mix it in. So we're gonna have some fun with that. But Steve, this has been amazing. Like I said, Jedi Master Stephen Flanagan, you guys, 40-year foreign exchange veteran, OG. Honored to have you on the show today, man. Thank you so much.
Steve, what's next, man? What's next? I forgot to ask. I don't believe that you truly retired from the markets. There's no way. The markets can't be the same without you, man. This is everybody I met that knows you said this, so I know this for a fact.
Burke, I often believe I've been very blessed in my life, and I don't think anything is final. I'm just kind of going along just the way I did in 1979, no different. And I'm going to be watching for doors that open or windows that open. And I'm open to anything. But I will say, after 43 years, I am enjoying retirement.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure.
And you totally earned it. So,
you should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get your life back. And that's a really good feeling. So,
but I still know that you look every now and then. You know where Euro is at still, right?
So the industry threw me a retirement party real quick. I don't want to hold you guys, but they asked me, Steve, what are you going to do next? And I gave a little type of 5-minute speech, and I said, I always talk to this guy, Burke. That was you. I said about an adaptive type algo, one that actually is in the marketplace responding to a live market, not that has if A do B, if B do C. No. It can actually look at last paid, last given, depth of market. So it actually begins because what is an algorithmic trading order? It's really a look back. It comes up with, a probability, and then it goes out. No. I want something that actually thinks and can look around the corner. So when that day comes where developers get to that point, I'd be very happy to get out there and test run something like that.
Look around the corner, man. That is the term that you had mentioned, which sort of kind of opened my what should I say, my mind, let's say, and sort of, we worked on this concept with the team. That part I'm gonna save and I'm not gonna share, but we appreciate your help with all that you've done for us to do those things. Thanks for coming, man. Like I
Thanks,
said,
guys.
I miss you. we'll
Definitely, man.
definitely.
I got
we'll
your song
definitely
on
chat
deck.
more.
That's what I'm preparing over
Song
here.
is good. Ready?
I'm ready. I'm listening.
All right.
Awesome.
Stephen Flanagan, everybody. Thanks for being on the show, Steve. We'll
Thanks,
hopefully
guys.
see you again real soon to drop some knowledge.
See you
Anytime.
soon, Steve. Thank you so
See you.
much,
See
man.
you guys.
Peace.